So what else, in terms of leading teams, what else would you advise, or what else worked really well in bomb disposal?
I think the issue with teams is that you need to also look at having networks of teams. A team is not what you need in a crisis. You need networks of teams. So you need this sort of network of team that can look after different things. For example, you need to have a network of teams that looks after the employees by making sure that we've got the right environment for them, we've got the right equipment for them, they are protected. But also that network of teams also needs to be able to do the research to understand what is going on in this crisis and what is coming next. You would also need an action network of teams who actually go and do the business, who are going to be made up of all of the teams involved in actually achieving what you're doing, everything from sales to supply to some HR involvement to some of the tech involvement too. They need to come together to make sure that you're still completing the actions you need to do. You also need a communications network of teams, so a group of teams that are looking at communications. And those communications need to look at your own people, but also the public at large, making sure they remain loyal, and also your financial capital, your shareholders, making sure they remain loyal. So how do you communicate to the three key groups that you need to communicate to? And I'd say the fourth thing you need to do is you need to have a strategic focus. So a series of teams who are looking at the strategic implications. In other words, when this is all over, and I repeat, it's going to come over soon, when it finally finishes, what is the world going to look like, and how can we position ourselves to make the best of what is out there in the world? So it's being able to see the world and being able to position ourselves so that we're ready to make the best of it as we're out there.
In other words, to start even now planning for the exit strategy, if you will.
Absolutely. So that really helps people because they can see that they may not be on the strategic focus team. They may be in the communications team or the action team or one of the other teams. That's fine. But they can see that we are looking, the organization is looking at what the future holds. What does the future say will be for our organization, and making sure that we are able to deal with it when it comes.
Dominic, you and I have often spoken about the fact that, you have very, very special training to deal with life and death situations. Most leaders in government and in business don't have such kind of trainer. So how can they deal with the invariable anxieties and fear that come up during these periods?
It's an important issue. And the first thing I'd have to say about this is that fear and anxiety in this kind of situation is absolutely normal. And I would also say healthy. I would be very, very suspicious of a leader who said he wasn't fearful, wasn't anxious about the situation we're facing at the moment, because that means that leader isn't aware of the gravity of the situation we face. So fear is normal. The issue isn't fear or anxiety. The issue is courage. And courage means that you can overcome your fears and still act. And where does courage come from? That's a critical question, a big question we talked about many times in bomb disposal. In my view, it comes from having initially a razor sharp, bone crushingly simple aim. What is it that we are trying to achieve in this crisis? What is it as an organization we are moving towards? That is really razor sharp and bone crushingly simple, because when you're under incredible pressure and incredible fear, it is understanding the aim gives you something to hang on to go back to, so that you can actually go on and do your job. So that's the first part. Courage also comes from a deep knowledge, making sure that you're up to date with things and you don't get behind, so up to date with this crisis. But it also comes from knowing yourself, understanding what your strengths and weaknesses are, knowing your team, and knowing your people and the environment that they are working in. Finally, courage also, oddly, in my experience, is reinforced through some simple meditation practice every day. So I used to block out 15 minutes a day for my own time. I used to call it my golden 15 minutes, where nobody was allowed to interrupt me unless there was some kind of existential crisis going on where somebody was about to die. But otherwise, they had to leave me alone. And I spent those 15 minutes doing some basic meditation, deep breathing exercises, focus word meditation, very, very simple stuff. And also making sure that I had some time to just think about the future, where we're going next, how my people are doing, how much leadership I'm doing that day, rather than just management. And that time every morning was important to me as a leader. So those would be the important things. I think that courage comes from a razor sharp, very, very clear intention and aim that you're doing. What is it the organization is trying to achieve? It also comes from knowing yourself, knowing your people, and also from doing some meditation, so that you basically make sure that you have prepared yourself for the day before it starts.
That's great. Thank you. Anything else that you feel, is critical in these circumstances?
I think in addition to what we've spoken about, I would say there is a really, really vital part to be played by a sense of humor, by having that ability not to laugh at the crisis, but perhaps to laugh at yourself, perhaps to be able to see the humor in a situation. It helps teams, it helps oil the teams, and it helps keep them together. The other thing I would say, there's a vital importance of stories. So when you're talking about what has been done well by, for example, your communications team or your action team, your network of teams, I should say, talking about those in terms of stories, this person did this, and as a result, we achieved that. And using that story to amplify the messages is brilliant. And people latch onto stories when they're in a crisis. They need the stories. They need to feel that there is a story. If you get it right, you will give them stories that they will want, and this is critical, they will want to go home and tell their spouses about, their wives and their husbands about, and they're going to want to tell their children about. That's a great story. They go home wanting to talk about it. It makes them proud of their organization. And if I said the third thing, that would be that you need to be visible as a leader. You need to be making sure that you and your leadership team are out there at all times as visible as possible. You can't be hidden away and not be seen by them. So 3 things: humor, stories, visibility.
Great. I think that as leaders go through, this situation, and as you know, some people are sort of coming out of it, some people are in the middle of it, some people have not been affected by it. All of this applies, particularly in the middle of it. But a lot of what we've discussed today applies. Thank you very much, Dominic, for sharing your knowledge. I'm going to leave it here. My regards to the family. Stay healthy, and I'll talk to you very soon.
Thank you very much, Vince, and thanks for the chance.